It's funny how certain things just stick with you. Like just the other day, I was reminded of my very first mobile phone, a Nokia, obviously. You could practically run it over with a truck. Talk about durable. And it got me thinking about their whole connecting people thing. Which, yeah, it was a great slogan. But it was more than that, wasn't it? It really reflected something kind of special about that time in mobile phone history, don't you think? Anyway, all of that is to say, today's deep dive, it's all about Nokia, the legacy of their Symbian phones. We'll get into some specific models, talk about the features, but really it's about how those phones actually genuinely connected people. And joining me to dig in this tech nostalgia trip, I've got our expert with us. Now, Symbian, it was more than just a name on a Nokia phone, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's easy to assume it was like a purely Nokia thing, but Symbian was actually, believe it or not, a real collaborative effort. We're talking huge companies. Nokia, sure, but also Ericsson, Motorola, even Symbian, all these players coming together to create this mobile phone operating system that, as you said, ended up being pretty iconic.
Okay, so let's unpack this consortium idea a bit.
Yeah.
Why the team effort? Was it just like a more collaborative time for tech companies back then in that pre-smartphone era?
In a lot of ways, yeah. Think about it. This was still when the whole mobile landscape was, sort of being defined. Like people were still figuring out what works. So there was a real sense of, shared exploration, maybe, a real need to set some standards, too. So this collaboration, it really let them pool their resources, their expertise, too. And that's how they developed, a system that was robust enough to actually run on all these different devices.
Makes sense. And speaking of devices, I got to say, when someone says Symbian phone, a few really specific models probably pop into a lot of listeners' heads. I'm talking like the Nokia 3310, the FIF 110, that super sleek 6600. Anybody. Come on. Lots of us have got memories tied to these phones. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what was it about those models? What made them stand out? Was it just clever marketing or was there something more to it?
It was, I'd call it a perfect storm of different things. Nokia, they just had a real knack for design, user experience, too. They really understood that, a phone was more than just a gadget. It was personal, an extension of your style, And those models, they just nailed it. That perfect combo of, functionality, but also how it looked, how it felt to use it.
You mentioned user experience. What did that even mean back then? Let's be real. Compared to what we carry around now, these phones are almost charmingly basic.
Oh, totally. But honestly, their simplicity, that was the secret weapon. Take the 3310, right? The thing was basically indestructible. We all know that. But beyond that, it was just so intuitive, even for people who weren't, tech savvy at all. And remember, this was when mobile phones were starting to become mainstream. Suddenly, everyone was getting one. And Nokia really tapped into that, right? Phones that were user-friendly, but yeah, let's be real, could also survive like an apocalypse.
Durability. Yeah, that's something you've mentioned a few times now. Definitely seems like a recurring theme with these early Nokias. And, thinking about it, we've also got personalization on our list here.
Right.
Like those swappable faceplates. The 5110 had them and a bunch of others too. Ringtones, wallpapers, the whole pit. It's funny, it seems almost quaint now, but it felt like more than just a cosmetic thing back then,
Oh, for sure. It was totally about self-expression. Back then, changing your faceplate, that wasn't just being frivolous. It was how you made your tech yours. A way to say something about yourself.
It's wild how something as, basic as a phone could become so personal, right? It wasn't just this thing you made calls on. It was like an accessory, a statement. Almost part of your identity.
Okay, exactly. And Nokia, they were smart about it. They gave people all these different options to customize. But it wasn't just about looks either. Symbian phones, yeah, they're simple compared to now, but they were also kind of pushing the envelope in terms of what a mobile could do,
You're talking about going beyond like calls, texts, maybe a little snake on the side?
Totally. Think about it. For a lot of people, those were their first experiences with the internet. Like we've got WAP browsers written down here.
Okay. Yeah. For those who didn't have the, shall we say, joy of experiencing WAP firsthand, what are we talking about here? Help us out.
Sure. So WAP, right. Wireless Application Protocol. Basically, it was a way to get on the internet, sort of, on your phone. Not the full shebang, obviously. Think like way slower. Lots of text, not a lot of pictures. But still, at the time, it was a big deal.
Oh, I remember those browsers. You'd be scrolling forever just to read one article. Yeah. Feels almost archaic now, but honestly, at the time it felt like, magic.
Yeah.
To have that in your pocket.
It was. And Nokia got it, They understood that this whole connecting people thing. It was about more than just phone calls, so they were all over that early mobile internet tech. Even with the limitations, it was like they could see a glimpse of the future or something, and it really set the stage for everything that came after, the whole smartphone revolution, I mean.
So, wait, are you saying my struggles to load, the baseball scores on my Nokia were like a vital stepping stone to the internet in my pocket I've got now?
Exactly. People forget how big a deal that was back then. And it wasn't just WAP either. Remember downloading ringtones, maybe even a few early mobile games. Those were the seeds of what became the app stores we've got now.
True. Symbian phones, they let you have third-party apps, even if the selection was, a tad more limited.
Right. And that ability to customize what your phone could do, not just how it looked, to add features and just personalize the whole experience, that was huge. It was another way that Nokia was connecting people, but to information this time, to entertainment, to a world beyond just their immediate surroundings.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, how far we've come from those early mobile internet days. Makes you wonder, though, is there anything from Nokia's whole approach beyond just the whole WA thing that we should be paying attention to, even now, I mean?
Oh, interesting. Actually, yeah. I mean, people who think about tech for a living, they've been saying this for a while. It's ironic, kind of. Nokia, they were all about durability, right? Battery life you could count on. And nowadays, those are the things a lot of smartphones struggle with.
Isn't that the truth? We're so caught up in the new model, new features, got to be faster, that we've kind of forgotten about the basics. Like being able to drop your phone without it shattering. Or, going a whole day without needing to plug in. I think maybe there's something to that. Yeah. Nokia's whole more practical, user-focused thing.
Totally. Nokia, their design, it was all about making a thing last. Functionality mattered, and people responded to that. And these days, when we're all finally realizing how bad all this e-waste is, that whole built to be repaired, not replaced thing, Nokia was way ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, good point. And it wasn't just the hardware either, right? Their phones, they were simple. Easy to use.
Absolutely. They were designed so that anybody could pick one up and figure it out. Didn't matter how tech savvy you were. And these days, when it feels like, tech can be kind of overwhelming sometimes, that whole user-friendly approach, it's more important than ever.
Totally democratic, those phones.
Yeah.
Everybody could have one. And suddenly people could connect in ways they never could before.
Which brings us back to, the whole point Nokia was making. Connecting people. That wasn't just a marketing line, was it? It was their mission statement.
Exactly. The Nokia's impact, it went way beyond the tech itself. It was about a feeling, this sense of, global community almost. It didn't matter where you were or your background.
Yeah.
They made it so everyone could be part of the conversation. This has been fun. What started as a little stroll down memory lane turned into something, kind of profound, actually. How tech shapes our lives, how we connect with each other.
Right. And sure, Nokia might not be, the name in phones anymore, but their influence, that's still here. They reminded us that when you get tech right, it's about empowering people, bringing them together, making the world feel a little smaller, a little more connected.
Makes you think, what will it be like years from now? What will we look back on from today's tech with that same, sense of wonder? Because that's a deep dive for another day, though. Anyway, until then, thanks for joining us on this little exploration. The Kia's impact, I mean.
Yeah.
It really was something else.